Welcome to the 357 podcast, Sex in the City. This is a series of conversations about the legendary Sauna 357 Sussex Street, the people who built it, the people who worked there, and of course the stories that came out of it. I'm Richard, and in this first episode, I'm joined by Ty and Luke, the guys behind it all. And in this episode, we're going to talk about opening day, the chaos around it, the unexpected crowd, and we're going to do a little tour of the sauna. We're going to take you through entering, walking up the stairs, through to the reception where Ty was greeting people on that first day, out into the wet area and onto the first floor, and explaining to you what a sauna really is. Let's get stuck into it. Let's go back to the opening day of 357. We'll embed. Yeah, you're laughing already.
Yeah, because he made me go upstairs into the succatorium and stand there and wait for the clients to turn up. Remember, you got all your friends to come in because we were worried that nobody would be there on opening day. So
yes, that's correct.
Filled it full of our friends and stuff.
We did, and then at 11:30 we started to throw everybody out.
That's
because
right.
The place was getting busier and busier. We didn't have the rooms.
Yeah.
As you probably remember, Richard, we opened over 2 floors, so it was not very big. It was only, it was much smaller. So,
but to get a sex license was very hard. It took us years to get, and it took a lot of money. Like, it actually took a lot of money to try to get it through council, and 357 ended up being our 4th application to council. So it was a very long process. Like, it didn't happen overnight. So it was a hard thing. It was a very hard thing to get up and running.
I was working in what was then called Kingsteam in Oxford Street. So I'd been there for quite a few years. I knew about the industry, and we were supposed to be purchasing Kingsteam. And basically on the very last day before we were going to exchange, they pulled out. So and that was already 18 months before we opened 357. So from there on in, we decided to open up our own one. Yeah. And that's how that all started. But I'd already had years of experience working at the sauna. Years.
Yeah.
Well, take us right back to the beginning. So you two, first of all, where did you meet? Both of you?
I worked with Luke's brother, and Luke was 18 and I was 25, and his brother kept coming into the office. We were both personnel consultants. He kept saying, "I think my brother's a fag." That's what he used to say. And I can't remember if that was a word he used, or poof or something, whatever. It was quite common 40 years ago. And so he goes, you ought to come back to my house. They were living in Campbelltown. He goes, "Come back to my house in Campbelltown and tell me if you think my brother's gay." So I came back and he was. And on the second night I went down to his brother, I went, "He's gay." And that was how we met.
You broke into my room.
No, you left your door open. I didn't have to break into anything.
You broke into my room and took advantage of me.
Just below your navels. I was going to walk past and see that before I went to bed.
That's how I sleep.
Oh, please. Yeah. And you broke into my bag because you wanted to see what was in a gay man's bag.
I'd never seen what was in a gay person's bag.
Well, what did you expect?
I don't know, dildos or something. I have no idea.
So that was,
anyway.
I had a car that had the stereo on the right-hand side of the steering wheel. So I told Luke he can drive my car, but I said I'll just adjust the music. So I reached over to adjust the music, which was right under the steering wheel, and I bumped him and he just froze up, and I went, "Definitely interested." And that was it.
Anyway, I think you'd done that move on many other people beforehand.
Oh, please. So that was really 3 weeks later we were living together.
Well, you needed a flatmate. And I was living in Campbelltown, so I wanted to move closer to the city. So
I did, yeah. I had an empty room, but when you moved in, you never ever slept in that room. Not once. Did you ever one night even sleep in that room?
Never once. No, never once.
So that was nice, yeah.
And we're still roommates today, which is lovely.
Yeah, we are. We still live together, roommates. So rude. Yeah, that was the beginning of that.
So then you spent your lives together, and at some point something clicked in regards to doing a business together, which is a sauna. So you'd obviously had some work. You've been doing something in the past. What was your career path up to the point where you made that decision to start something like 357?
I was basically a personnel consultant, and I just left that and started working in a place that no one would remember in Bexley North, which is a very small suburb in New South Wales. And at the time it was called New Toy, I think. And they sold adult books and that sort of thing. And I thought, oh, this is exciting. I'll do this for 3 months till I decide what I want to do. But I loved it. I used to have to deliver see-through toilet seats to sex clubs and to, like, it was a bizarre sort of business. And I worked for 2 very friendly guys who I remember were into fisting, and that's all they ever spoke about, and I didn't know anything about that at all. But I used to drive their panel van and deliver all this stuff around, and I really enjoyed it. And this lady from the sauna in Oxford Street used to come and pick up lubricant, and then I started delivering the lubricant. And then one day out of the blue, she rang me on a Sunday and she goes, "Oh, my barista hasn't turned up. Will you come and work in the cafe, the sauna?" And I went, "Oh, okay." And I never used saunas. I only used Beats. I didn't go to saunas. So I went to the sauna and I worked at the bar, and I didn't know how to make coffee. She said she didn't care. And that was my first shift in a sauna, and I was there for years after that. And I ended up working full-time at the door. But what they didn't know about me was that, I was sort of behind us. We had some finance, so I had always considered what it would be like to own a sauna. And after many years, she talked about getting out. So I said, "Look, I'd like to buy the sauna." And that was how it all began. Yeah.
So that's how the idea of buying King Steam came up.
They wanted to sell their business.
Yeah, well, I didn't ask them.
They sort of tapped at the door and said, "Look, we want to get out," and so we raised the money to do that. And
it was a
lot of money at the time.
Real substantial amount of money. We even flew overseas and
correct,
made sure we had the
20.
funds.
It was 28 years ago or whatever. It was a lot of money. So we sort of raised the finance, and then on the 11th hour they decided not to sell. So
And I still remember she told me on New Year's Eve, and and we were really good friends as well. Like I'd taken her around to visit her mother down in the South Coast and all sorts of things. Like we were very good friends. I was very disappointed.
Yeah. But as it worked out in our favour, because we ended up setting up 357 for half the price. So it was hard, but we did it at half the level.
And we didn't know at the time that the player wasn't even licensed.
Yes,
at the time there was no sex license.
Their business wasn't licensed.
There was only one venue that had a license at the time, and that was Bodyline. And all the others, like Ken's and King's and all of them, none of them had a license. They were operating as karate clubs or saunas or whatever, but it wasn't.
Not as an SOPV.
There was no SOPV.
That SOPV is, we'll talk about a lot of that in the podcast, but it's notified, like it's a sex on premises license. And they're very hard, they're still hard to get today. So they don't give them out to anybody, that, willy-nilly type of stuff.
So once we missed out on King's Team, I got a bee in my bonnet, and I wanted a sauna, and that was all I wanted. And I just worked and worked and worked and worked until we got it. Basically, one venue to the other, to the other, to the other.
Circling back to you, Luke, in regards to your life before. So what did you do before sauna?
I was in finance. I had a job in finance and in the banking world. So I was very lucky at the time that 357 and this whole process, because I was working at the Commonwealth Bank and I had quite a cushy job at that stage. So
you were in Futures, Luke.
I was in Futures. So when we set up 357, we had no money left. Like, we honestly gambled everything. We sold everything we had, and I kept my job for 9 months because I thought if it doesn't work, I had to go back to work and pay off the loans or pay off the money. So I kept on working. I used to work during the day 9 to 5, and then I'd finish work, run down to the sauna, and I would do the 6 to midnight shift, and then go to bed.
We were living upstairs.
Yeah, because we had no money, and we were actually physically living. Council didn't know that, but we were living upstairs because we had nowhere to live
on level 4,
and we were living on level 4. So we all had our bed.
Well, it was the penthouse, Luke. We were very lucky.
without a view.
Yes.
And my bedroom was at one stage was over the sling room, and all I heard all night was the squeaking of the chains and things like that.
And Cher. Do you remember they used to play Cher downstairs?
Yeah, the music. You'd hear
in the
music.
middle of the night, if I believe in life after love, it just used to start in the middle of the night.
Ring them downstairs and say, "Can you turn the music down? I can't sleep." So, but so that's really what happened. And I just saw. I used to go to a sauna out in Kensington, and it was legendary. It was there for a very long time, and it was incredible. And we just wanted to, do something in the city because I thought there was a niche for it, And like I used to sometimes go to Beats and things like that in the city, and I thought there was an amazing market for all the people in the city that could use a business like ours in the city. All the suits, we called them suits.
And for our older clients, everywhere you were, like St James toilets, museum toilets, it was massive. Go to St James at 6 o'clock in the morning, there'd be 30 guys you could choose from.
Yeah, like I used to catch the bus. At one stage, we were living over in Vaucluse, and I'd catch the bus and get off at St James, but I had to start work early. And I'd get off at St James, go into the toilet, and there was truly 20 men, like all at the urinals having sex, and it was incredible. Like I've never seen that before, and I probably, a lot of people won't even see it again, because that type of whole world has gone away with, Grindr and stuff like that. So, but, that wasn't obviously an option at the time. Grindr wasn't around.
And I'll always respect the fact that you gave up everything in your career and everything to try a sex.
Oh my God.
Premises venue. That
well,
was
when
really
it took
great.
off, like 9 months, I thought, well, I can leave the bank now. So, and I just stayed working at the sauna. So, yeah.
You have spoken to me in the past about the search for the space. I mean, that's a difficult part.
Very hard. That was very hard.
Every single time we get a space,
Yeah.
either the body corporates would get together and say, do you want a sex venue outside of your unit? And they'd just knock us back everywhere we went.
Every time, yeah.
Every single time. And then one was, we were really keen. It was in Martin Place, and we just thought it was the most amazing venue we'd ever seen, and it had like all these bank vaults and all this sort of thing.
It's under Paspaley Pearls on Martin Place. They actually own the building. So.
Yeah, the owner of Paspaley Pearls called us and goes, do you really think I want to have a sex venue
best sauna.
underneath my flagship shop? So that was the end of that one. So if we didn't have the council knock us back, the landlords knocked us back, they didn't want a sex venue in their buildings.
Yeah. And at lunchtime, I used to walk around, like when I was before 357, and I would walk around at lunchtime because there was no sort of access to the internet like we have now with realestate.com or any of that type of stuff. And so I would walk around. I had a map, and I would highlight the streets I'd walk looking for buildings. And we were registered with real estate agents. We were just constantly on the hunt looking for a building. And when we found 357, I still remember it. We were in the car. I found it, and then I showed it to Ty, and we had very close friends in the car with us, and we drove past it, and Ty said it'll never work there because there was a residential block right next door.
There was the Regal apartments right next door, like
and you said, it'll never work.
Yeah.
It'll never work. So
we
I
were
said,
sharing walls.
Yeah. So I said, look, let's just put in an application and we'll see how we go. And we finally got it through there.
Yeah, but only after the 82A meeting, and because they would straight away said no.
Yeah, they pushed us back.
But we were very lucky with the Regal apartments. It was mainly different nationalities that lived in the building. So when the council had
notified the building,
notified the whole building that there'd be a sex venue, they just didn't say anything. They didn't.
And it was
care.
highly rented as well. It was highly rented. So obviously they let a box drop the building.
They didn't care,
and they just didn't.
But the
care.
Strata got in contact with us and said we're never going to allow this to proceed.
Yeah.
So we offered to buy the apartment next door to have a share in the building, and so that it mattered to us what happened next door. And
but we also paid for their security. Remember?
Yeah, that's right. We paid for that.
Oh
yes, I forgot about that.
That was before we lived there. We paid for their security company.
Oh yes, that's right, Luke. I forgot about that.
We paid for their security because they were worried about what type of clientels were going to come in, and they just didn't understand that people that use sex venues, they don't loiter around the front. They just go into this door, and that's what happened.
But the biggest thing of all is that we had to take that they said no, and then we said we're going to land in Environment Court. Yeah. And then our beautiful architect and friend Diane Murray, she organised something called an 82
We're allowed
meeting.
to use her name, by the way.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about Diane Murray 100 times. And anyway, we're really close to Diane, so she got us this meeting, and we went to Town Hall.
Yep.
An actual Town Hall. We went to the offices, and there was the mayor at the time, which was Lucy Turnbull, Malcolm Turnbull, the Prime Minister's wife. And then there was all these people that didn't want us to open, including people from something called ResNet. And then there was the church. Yeah. And then there was all these people. So the woman from the church, and Diane said to me, she goes, you're going to be able to talk, and you're only going to be able to talk for 4 minutes.
Yeah.
And she said, but you can't go over. And she was sitting opposite me. And, I was so nervous because I knew that if this was it, and I thought if this doesn't work, I think we're going to give up because I
think it was number 4. This was the fourth venue.
Yeah, it was. Yes, it was Albion Place in Sydney.
Yeah.
It was Martin Place. We just kept going. Anyway, this woman got up. I'll never forget. She had her blouse was all closed up and she was staring at me and she goes, "Do you know how awful it is for me? It's for us." She goes, "Our parishioners will have to walk past your sex venue to get to the church." She goes, "That's that's disgusting for us." And I said, "I know it's equally as bad for us." I said, "All of our clients are going to have to walk past the church before they get to the sex club and they're all going to be turned off." Anyway, they started to laugh, like the other people in the background. And I leaned forward and I looked right at her and I said, "Do you know how ridiculous what you just said is?" I said, "It's as ridiculous as what I just said." And I just tried it, and I had a backup for everything I said. We had, we knew how many.
But also, council asked us. Remember, they were asking us. They couldn't understand why they had problems in their toilets at the train station. Why men were using, why they were having sex in the toilet. Remember that?
Yes, and he said, "Oh, we just spent $320,000 anti-gaying the Wynyard toilet."
Yeah.
And I said, "Are you wondering why the staircase that goes between York Street and the toilets is so busy with men walking up and down?" And this woman goes, "Yes, I was wondering that." I said, "They're all having sex up there now." I said, "That's all."
They just moved.
I said, "You moved them along 40 metres." I said, "Where they're going now is actually a lot better." Yeah. I was so angry. Yeah. And also there was 17 at that time. I'll never forget that number. There was 17 straight brothels and sex venues within a 1 kilometre radius of the town hall, which is where, and also I'm a really large, overweight white guy, and everyone in the meeting was a large white guy. They all look like me. And I kept pointing at every one of them. I said, "You can go and, get Mistress Amanda to brand you and to whip you." And I said, "That's okay." I said, "You can go." And I just mentioned all the brothels and I handed a piece of paper out. I said, "But we can't open one gay venue." I said, "You're not letting us to open one venue because it's gay." I went, what is that about?
And I just have to point out, in that meeting, Diane kept on looking at me to try to stop Diane from talking, and she was
kicking me. She just kept on kicking me, and then I got really passionate and I stood up anyway. I ended up 25 minutes instead of 4 minutes, and I just didn't stop. It was like years and years of pent-up anguish about not being able to open the venue.
But you were very respectful. I
never swore, and I never said anything disgusting.
But they showed how much passion you had.
Anyway, 48 hours, we walked out and Diane goes, she goes, "Either they're never ever going to see any of us ever again." She goes, "Or you're going to get a pass." And 48 hours later, Lucy Turnbull rang Diane and she goes, "I'm going to let them open."
Yeah, it was incredible woman, Lucy Turnbull.
And that's why we always say it was women that got our venue to open. Yeah. It was the Lord Mayor, it was Diane Murray. And of course, we were financed by our friend called Margaret because we'd already run out of money. We had no money left. We'd spent so much money doing all these court cases and everything else. And deposits on buildings and
application fees,
and we didn't have enough money. Now that we actually got it, we didn't have enough money to build it, so we had to lend the money from our friend Margaret. So it's 3 women, those 3 women, and that's why we always say it's quite ironic that the biggest gay venue was actually financed, run, and everything by women who were so helpful to us. So that was the beginning. And the landlord, and again, even the landlord of 357 wasn't going to lease us the building when he found out who we were.
And then we had an on-site meeting the very first time with Diane, the architect, and she had a very close relationship with the owner of the building.
Weren't we lucky? She had renovated that building and made it into their offices. But when he said, he was standing out the front of me, he was Croatian, and he said, we don't really, and he actually said it. He goes, "We don't understand that
Well, they didn't understand what we were doing. They thought we were a brothel, but we're not a brothel. We're a paid sex on premises."
And he goes, "So you don't have one single customer, and everyone's just going to come, and you're going to be able to leave." And the whole building at that time was $5,000 a week or something.
It was $18,000 a month.
$18,000 a month. That was in 2001. Do you know how much money that was? And he goes, "Yes, you're never going to be able to pay the rent." Anyway, and then he goes, "Look, boys, thank you for coming out." And he went to shake our hand. He was with us for a whole 3 minutes. And Diane Murray turned up. She goes, "Oh, hi, Steve. How are you?" Like this. And he goes, "You know these boys?" Like this. And she goes, "Please give them a break." She goes, "They're really nice guys." And he goes, "Oh, okay, so open up the door." And the rest is basically
She opened that door for us.
She opened that door for us as well. She opened up the council door for us, and she opened up with the landlord. We weren't going to get it. We weren't going to get the building. He wasn't going to rent it to us.
No.
I mean, how hard is it to get 1,000 squares in the city, and for that sort of length of time?
Diane's a very special person. How did you meet Diane?
Also, through doing this, when we went to a real estate agent.
At Bathurst Street. We were
that was another property we were trying to get past at Bathurst Street.
But we were introduced to Diane through a real estate agent, and he said that we needed, which we did, an architect, a commercial architect, and he put us together, and we met her at the steps of Bathurst Street.
Yes, that's right.
And we're still friends today, very close friends today.
Extremely close.
Yeah.
We only just saw her last week. We had a beautiful breakfast together.
Yeah.
We love her so much.
Yeah.
Everything we have is because of her.
Yeah.
That's a nice question. It was nice to remember that.
Yeah, it was at Bathurst Street. It's the steps of Bathurst Street.
Yeah, which was also going to be a great sauna.
Yeah, that would have been a good sauna.
You know when you walk along the city and you see the glass tiles on the footpath, you know, and all the old buildings, all of the rooms that we were going to build had those glass tiles on them. So people would have been having sex with people walking above them, like with stilettos and shoes, and all you could see was feet. And we just thought that was so hot.
But the best one was Pas Paley, because when we were looking at that building, we opened up a door and it went to the toilet blocks, and they were all white marble. It was all underneath Martin
And it's still
Place.
there today.
Still there today.
Still there today.
They just
The original toilets.
It was. I've never seen anything like it.
And the glory holes, there was still 3 glory holes.
Yep.
We were just blown away by that. And Diane was so excited. She was going, oh my God. Like we were just like blown away.
Yeah.
So
Funny you mentioned blown away when talking about
toilets and glory holes.
Yeah.
and that a lady is as excited as you two about finding glory holes in a
But by that
in a
time we
venue.
were so close. And I remember
Yeah.
ringing her once and going, Diane, we just can't do this anymore. And I said, we just can't keep putting square pegs in a round holes because it's just never going to work. And she just got really angry and she goes, don't you dare stop now. She goes, we've done all this work and we've done the 4 buildings.
She pushed the 82A meeting with council on 357.
So once again, when we were absolutely, every single time one of us was finished and over at the other one, we'll push the other one forward.
Yeah.
And none of it would have happened if we hadn't keep going. And we're very lucky to have that financed by Margaret, I have to say.
Well, she changed our life as well.
We get the keys to the building and we've only got half the money to do the renovation. We just couldn't afford it anymore.
Correct.
And I thought, what are we going to do if this doesn't work? We're finished.
I'm back at the bank.
Luke's back at the bank and
Next.
and I'll be delivering see-through toilets.
We are now at the point where you're about to open, right? So you've done all the work. We'll talk about the renovations maybe in episode 2 or 3, but you're now at that door. I think there's some video footage of you at the door that morning as you open up. What was that process from the point that you opened that door onwards? Tell me about that day.
The only thing I can remember, because we worked day and night from September onwards, and we were so tired that all I was doing was shaking every day and I was exhausted. And every single thing we'd done, we remembered every single thing. And then it was 6 o'clock in the morning and my friend Alan, who I'm still very close to, he's a Harbour City Bear, he said to me, he goes, oh, have you got a float? And I went, a what? And he goes,
a cash box.
And he goes, Ty, he goes, not everyone that comes in is going to have the right money. He goes, you've got to be able to give them change. I went, change? I was so tired. I never thought about it. And it was Boxing Day morning. What's open? Nothing, right? Nothing, 6 o'clock in the morning. So Alan goes to the casino and changes all this money for us.
For 5s and
Then he goes to
10s
7-Eleven. He goes, can I have a fig of mints? And he went from shop to shop to shop
break up
until
the
he came
nights.
back with like a $500 or $600 float. Like that, it's things like that you just like the most stupidest thing to possibly forget is what we forgot.
Yeah, but it's like anybody setting up a small business. Like there's 1,000 things you have to do or 1,000 things you have to remember. And of course, there's a number of things that are key that you actually miss. So, but the cash box, that was very funny because everything was shut. It was Christmas. So,
And the night before, we'd been up till midnight tying the keys together with Margaret.
Yeah, Margaret was on the floor in the locker room. Yeah. Tying the keys
and
up together.
She goes, I think I have a very sad life. She said, it's Christmas Day and I'm sitting on the floor of a gay bathhouse tying keys together.
Merry Christmas, love.
And Luke goes, Merry Christmas, love. Like this.
Keep tying.
Keep tying up the elastics.
Let's talk, keep tying.
And I said to everyone, I actually, in my head, was hoping that we'd do 70 people that day, but I publicly said 35. Well, publicly, there was no publicly. But I said to Luke, and at that time we had Luke's brother was a business partner in the sauna at the very beginning. And we'll get into why that didn't work out as well. And I said to him and to Luke, I said, look, we're lucky if we're going to do 35 people. And of course, that day we did 380.
380.
Which was so bizarre. Yeah. So
how did that pan out? So you're here at the door, you open the door, you walk in, you start. What were you both doing at that point in the sauna?
Panicking.
Well, you were at the door, and I was in one of the sex areas. So.
I'd had so much experience at the sauna, so I knew what to say.
Yeah.
And I wanted, and our whole thing, and I said to Luke from day one, was to be incredibly friendly, incredibly accepting, no racism, no sexism, I wanted large guys to be comfortable. I wanted every nationality to be super comfortable and not feel that they couldn't go to a sauna because it was full of chiseled white guys.
Well, there was one other business, not the one that Ty had worked at, another business up the road, and because at that stage there was 4, and one.
There was Kingston, Bodyline. I want to
Ken's of Kensington.
Yeah, I want to be totally honest about everything that we're saying.
People like us weren't welcome at Bodyline at the time. We weren't gorgeous. We didn't have the six pack. We didn't have the big muscly arms, and we just never wanted to have a place like that for people because we wanted to welcome anybody, who make people feel comfortable, all races, all shapes and sizes. And that was one of your ad campaigns that Ty came up with, that you came up with.
But we kept that going right until the very last
day.
To
the end.
All sizes, all races, all ages, all welcome.
Yeah.
It's very important. And for older guys, what was the stigma that Australia had about older guys?
Yeah.
Older guys are redeemed in America. They're put on a pedestal and people ask them questions. But here it's just, there's an old gaze coming into the sauna, and then there's it was really bad. And I didn't want that. I wanted everyone to be comfortable, even to the fact that when we had large towels for the large guys, we got the same color towels.
So they all matched.
At Kingston, there was rainbow towel. So fat guys that walk around in rainbow, that was me walking around in a rainbow towel. I don't want to be highlighted like that. I just think it's important for everyone to be the same. So that was a very important part of the business, wasn't it?
But also, if nobody's ever been to a sauna, it was the whole building. This is for the people that don't actually understand it. The building that we rented was 1,000 squares, and each floor was basically $250 each.
It's a whole building,
and it was a whole building over 4 floors. So we could only afford from day one to build the wet area and locker area on the ground, like on the first floor, and then the cruising area was up on level 2. We didn't have the money to do level 3 and 4, and we did that later. But just so because some people that might be listening to this have never been to 357 or never seen inside a sex club. So that's how we operated it. And we had a commercial laundry built in to the back of the office.
Because as everyone walks in, they get a towel and they get a locker. Yeah. That's what we've got to provide them.
So we're on the first day. Let's say, Richard, myself, I walk up to the door. This is your opening day. What am I expecting to see? Take me through the guided tour, who I'd be meeting and what I'd be seeing as I walk in.
You would have walked in and seen me at the counter.
Yeah.
But weren't you at the counter with me as well?
No, I did the night shift, remember?
No, but on the first day you were with me.
I wasn't, but then you pushed me upstairs as soon as the first clients come. And we had some friends in because we needed to have people upstairs.
Oh, yes, that's
Remember?
right. Yeah. I tried
Alan was there.
Because you had ring-ins.
Yeah, we did.
We did. And what really blew me away was that at 10 o'clock there were already a bunch of people waiting to come in.
There was a queue.
And we've still got the guy paid, it was $10 to come into the sauna as an opening special for the month.
Yeah.
And the guy paid with 2 $5 notes, and I've got them in a frame.
Yeah.
I took that note and put it away. We kept it, yeah. But that was, so they come up and I said, "Hi, welcome to 357.
And off you went.
And off we went. And then and some lockers were to the left, some lockers were to the right. So I gave them a key and a towel. And I said, and also another mistake we made was we didn't, a really bad mistake.
We didn't wash the towels properly.
No,
that was a big mistake.
We just gave them some of them had a quick wash, and I just kept saying to Luke, "You're wasting time. It's ridiculous."
But you have to wash a towel twice to take the wax off it.
So everybody was covered in fluff and wax, and there was just fluff and wax and lint all through the whole venue.
It was so funny.
It was hideous. And do you remember that man who came? He had all the blue lint all over his head, and he goes, "Have you ever washed your towels?" I went, "Of course we have." Of course we hadn't. So that night we just washed everything. Yeah,
so
really stupid.
I've walked up to the counter. I've spoken to you. You've given me a key. I'm in the lockers. What happens then?
Everybody puts everything in their locker, and they're totally 100% equal. There's nobody that's important, less important, wealthy, less wealthy. Everyone's the same. They're all in a towel. They wear their little locker around the locker thing around their wrist, and they just walk through the venue. And the first thing they would have walked into was the wet area. So they would have been able to have a sauna, spa, shower.
So tell me about that wet area. What's that wet area? What was it like at that opening time?
For us, it was very important, again, down to the no attitude at the venue, that we had private showers as well, because not everyone was comfortable in the open showers. No one had ever built private showers in a sauna. I just didn't know why. I didn't like showering in front of other people, and I was very self-conscious, maybe the size of my penis. So I just didn't want everyone to see me naked, and I wanted to shower in a private shower, and so did so many other people. And then other people, maybe like you, are quite happy to shower in the open shower. Right, Richard?
Well, thank you.
Yes. So that was really important. And then what surprised me was because people were all queuing for the private showers, and like I started thinking, oh my God, I shouldn't have even bothered making open showers, but we're really happy we did.
Yeah.
But one of the first things we did when we could afford to do it was build more private showers.
Build more
wasn't
of them.
enough.
Yeah.
And
we had a cafe there at that stage too when we opened. Remember, it was at the back of the office. We had a little cafe. Remember?
Oh, that's right. Correct. Of course, that
We
was
used to
never up on
sell
level
pies
4. Yeah, that's right. So yeah, that was what I do forget. What was the steam room after a year?
We turned the steam room into the cafe. Went into the steam room after we renovated
because we got incredibly busy. We realised that the design was fine for the numbers that we'd planned, but the numbers were higher than what we planned.
But also when we built the club event, like when we first built the club, this is quite funny. The building owner had a construction company, and he said, "I'll build it for you."
And that was he would only give us the lease.
Correct. If we used his company.
If we used his company.
But he thought we were going to go broke in a matter of months. So he built it quite cheaply. But the waterproofing, because it just didn't waterproof, remember? Because it was a wooden building.
Yes.
And there was a restaurant underneath, and the water used to drip into the cafe and restaurant underneath. Do you remember that?
Oh, like we spent the next 20 years doing
waterproofing.
And he'd given us an 8-year lease, right? Which was very important because it was such an expensive fit out,
we had a 4x4 lease.
But how we found everything out was his project manager, which was a really, really rough Croatian guy who we thought hated us. The day that we opened, he came to me and he was crying and he asked me for a job, and he goes, I can't pretend to be something I'm not any longer. He goes, I'm into trans, I'm into this. He goes, I really want to work for you.
I want to work for you.
Yes, I want to work for you. He goes, I don't want to work.
Graveyard shifts.
So he told us over the next 3 months everything that they'd done. And they'd all just said, these guys are going to be out the back door in 4 to 6 months, so just make a really cheap fit out and don't worry about it. So... And do you remember that time he walked up, the landlord ran up the stairs and he goes, there's hundreds of people coming in here. And I said, of course, how are we supposed to pay you $5,000 a week if there's he goes, they can't all be gay. And I said, well, who cares? I went, he goes, but it's full of people. And I went, of course it is. And that moment, I think he realised he's in real trouble because he warranted all the work.
Yeah. So in between the venue and the restaurant that was underneath us was drip trays. They just installed drip trays.
That's all they did.
It was 1,000
drip tray running into another drip tray, running into another drip tray, running down into the driveway. And the more people that showered, the more the water just filled up. And the guys used to come up who were operating the restaurant, and they're going, and I still remember it was a Taiwanese tea house, and their English was really bad. And he kept screaming at me, going, water everywhere like this. And I tried to calm him down, and I said, listen, we should be charging you for the water because you're getting so much free water. And he went right into my face. He goes, not funny. He screamed at me like this. And then he goes, it's very bad. What do you say? Very bad karma to have water.
But it was everywhere. Their ceiling was collapsing. They had to they had to warrant the job. So there was like a 3-year warranty or something.
And I just kept saying, well, you did the waterproofing. How is it my fault?
We just washed our
hands. And nothing was affecting us because our business
still
was working great, and the wet areas were working exactly as we wanted, but they were all leaking downstairs. And we were really upset about that.
And I remember one stage I walked down to have a look at it, and this woman had a baby's carriage, like a pram, and it was leaking onto the baby's pram, but I think that water was coming from the spa bath or something. It was just... And I said, oh, look, I really think you should move your pram, So.
Like we were really, this is before all sorts of regulations, right? But it was really, really bad. And I said to him, I went, why have you built a wet area that leaks like this? But I knew
he just
why.
thought we were going to go broke, so yeah.
And then he just had to start repairing things. And then we also spent a lot of money,
thousands
with
of
those
dollars.
Companies trying to stop the water from going down. Because I didn't want that business down.
Not.
I don't want to interfere with someone else's business, and I wanted them to succeed as well.
Yeah.
It was horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, the wet area.
The wet area. Sorry, we got.
No,
I'm talking about different things.
I think we're loving the storytelling of how it started because the foundations and the start was a big struggle.
Huge struggle.
So I'm in the wet area. What am I seeing? Am I seeing just showers? What else is there?
A steam room and a dry sauna.
Yeah.
But at that time, a very small dry sauna in the middle of the wet area.
Yes. Yeah.
So where there used to be a little tiny sauna there. And then where the dry sauna was the steam room at the time, which was very cruisy, actually.
Yeah, it all worked. It all worked. For the time, it was perfect.
For the time, but the dry sauna was way too small, but it was okay. Yeah. It did us fine. And that was what you did. So you had a steam sauna spa, and of course the boys would go into the sauna or spa, and if they like what they touched, they might go upstairs to a room.
Yeah.
But we only had 11 rooms. We had 11 rooms upstairs, and we
And a
thought,
gymnasium.
and the gymnasium, total waste of space.
We'll get
Never use
we'll
it,
get
rust
to
it.
level 1 in a second, but tell me about the spa, because that's a big thing in saunas.
It is a very big thing, yeah. Look, I wanted a much larger spa. I really like the spa. There was a Bodyline, which is now Sauna X. I love their spa, and I wanted to build a spa just like that, but I couldn't get the council approval.
But it was also a weight restriction as well, because the building, our wet area was located on level 1, and it was a timber building. So structurally, we couldn't build it any bigger. It couldn't take the volume of water.
That's correct, and we needed a fire exit.
Correct, and it was all to do with
Fire egress and access.
Yeah. So we had to build a smaller spa.
And what I really hated was that our spa, and I always disliked that so much, was that there were steps going up. And that really
and you
used
walked
to bother
up
me.
into
So you'd have to walk up into the spa, and everyone that was in the spa already would look up at your bits, you know.
Yeah.
So again, there was no privacy. Like, you couldn't hold your bits and get in holding the railing or anything. Like, you just ended up being naked, and which is fine again for people that are
Sorry, Richard, you never had that problem.
I honestly didn't like that. They used to bother me so much.
It was awful. It was really awful.
And those stairs that were always
nothing we could
breaking
do.
and collapsing, and we always had to we put stainless steel stairs in. We put everything. Over the 20 years, we just kept changing things, but we couldn't fix anything about that. And that was the way it was. So people liked the spa, but there was just some people that simply wouldn't get in it.
Yeah.
Like, I would spa every morning, but I'd spa on my own before we opened. So,
but I never sparred. I think I had one spa there when we first opened. That was it. I just don't like hot water.
You don't like spas, yeah.
I just don't like hot water.
But we had I think we made up for it with a really cruisy steam and sauna. So
absolutely.
But did make up for the spa. But yes, you'd have a choice of the spa, steam or sauna, open showers, private showers, and it was a lovely sound. It was like there was always water running, which I really loved. Yeah,
and a lot of sex happened in that zone as well. There was actually a lot of sex in that area. So
there was always.
It always was, even till the day we shut. It was actually a very cruisy place. In the end, after renovating it, we used to have a big sort of bed there in the open, and there was a lot of sex that used to happen like on that area on the bed.
There was. Not everyone wanted to go upstairs.
And people had to have sex in the showers, and they liked to have sex in the steam room. You know, for me, I couldn't think of anything worse being that hot in a steam room. It's just it was
for me as well.
Way too. I would never do that. Yeah.
We'll get into the details of each area in one of our following episodes. Again, we're back at this opening day. I've walked through the wet area, and now I see some stairs. Right, so we've got a couple of sets of stairs that go up. To paint a picture for people who possibly have not been to this sauna, there's a story behind one of the sets of stairs, because it's quite peculiar. It goes up and it turns around, and it's quite a bulky, big set of industrial staircase.
Which we thought was a total waste of space. But again...
Well, we had to put that in.
We had to put it in.
We cut it in. We cut it into the floor.
Council again, part of the requirements was when we were using those two floors is that we connect floor 1 and 2 with another staircase, not just the one staircase. So we lost a whole lot of space and cut a floor in the time, which was also very expensive. So we cut a huge floor and we built a wooden staircase in the middle of it. And that took you up to the cruising areas. And later on, we were actually really happy that staircase was there.
We were gifted with that because it was actually a nice part of the venue.
Yes, so as much as we hated it, it became a very cruisy kind of area because people could stand on top of the stairs.
And you could watch down into the wet areas and see people showering.
And it became incredibly popular area.
Yeah.
So isn't that strange? They made us do that. We didn't want to.
Yeah.
But that was, and also just having the one staircase would have been not with that sort of foot traffic would have been more complicated.
Because it was one single staircase it was one of those old type of buildings where there was a staircase that sort of wrapped itself up on the edge of a building. That's how it worked. And then this staircase was right in the middle sort of the wet area and puncturing into the first level of sex areas.
So I'm walking up this staircase.
After you had a shower.
You were quite particular about this.
Yeah. We had signs everywhere, shower before fun, make sure you have a shower before you go upstairs.
When you're in a bathhouse, why don't you shower?
Yeah, some people don't like that.
Some people want to have smelly sex.
Yeah,
I get it. They don't want to shower because they want to smell more musky and more masculine.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that
we always promoted clean health.
We promoted it to be clean, yeah.
So I've walked up these stairs and I'm now on what you call level 1.
Yes.
So was Tell me about level 1. At that point, remember, we are on your opening day here. What do I find on level 1?
The smell of paint.
We were still painting till 10 o'clock in the morning.
And the sad thing
Does it smell like ammo?
No, it didn't smell. It smelled
no.
like paint and vinyl. Do you remember that? It was such a strong smell of paint.
It really
'Cause
was.
The walls were still wet. The ceiling was still wet. Some of the cubicles in the Sakatori, remember? This guy got paint on his penis when he got...
Oh, around the...
Do you remember?
yes,
Because
that's
we had
right.
just finished painting the glory holes and things like that.
That's right, yeah. And I was
he
trying
goes,
everything
"I've
with
got paint on my penis." And I said, "Oh, sorry, I don't know what will take that off."
That's right. He had
Do you
like
remember?
a ring around it. It wasn't actually on his
we'd only
penis.
just
It was,
finished painting the glory
it
holes.
was kind of on the, like, I remember that now.
Yeah.
He came down, he goes,
Yeah.
I've got a ring of black paint.
Yeah.
And I went,
We
I'm
had-
so sorry.
We had black paint on the penis.
You
so-
should have charged him extra
Yeah,
for
that's
the
right.
privilege.
Yeah, that's right.
So I'm on level 1. One of my, other than, of course, now the freshness of the paint, what else?
Cubicles. We found 11 cubicles with a rubber bed inside each one, a light with a dimmable light, and a container with condoms in it. That was what
And
was
the
in
room
the
is sort of like like for the people that don't know how they work, the room's probably a couple of meters by a couple of meters, and there's like a bed and all of our beds were raised off. Well, most of them were raised off, and we had a vinyl mattress so we could clean them and things like that. There's no linen, and it's all about health
and the floor is coved.
Yeah, and we work very closely. Like to set it up, I always remember we got a huge amount of help from ACON, which is the AIDS Council of New South Wales, and they gave us a lot of guidelines on what they would like to promote health, clean, healthy sex and things like that with condoms in rooms, and it was all of that. So that's what would be in a room.
We'll cover the condoms and
Yeah.
the reasons why, possibly in a later episode. I want to come back to what I'm seeing on this floor. I want to paint that picture. So there are 11 cubicles. What else is on that floor on this opening day?
A porn cinema.
A porn cinema.
So you could sit inside and watch porn.
Yeah.
Which we try to make as cruisy and as interesting as possible.
Yes.
There were monitors, sort of quite a few monitors around playing
Yeah.
porn.
Yep.
There was a disabled toilet and 2 toilets, a douche room.
And a very small succatorium. It was only 3 cubicles at the time. So for somebody that doesn't know what a succatorium is, it's for oral sex. So it's like the client would walk up a couple of steps into a little cubicle, and then he could put his penis through a hole, and then the person underneath would be able to give him oral sex.
There was 3 steps up to the top
3
cubicles.
steps,
and so people
So,
could
and you would
stand
never
up.
know. It was sort of quite like you wouldn't know who was in either cubicle unless you look through the hole.
So you
and
have that
probably end up
choice,
with paint
yeah.
on your eye.
Yeah, that's right. So,
You've been in the secretorium, haven't you?
and there was a gymnasium. So in the corner, I can't remember the lighting we put in the gymnasium. I don't remember the lighting.
Yeah, it was just there for cosmetic reasons. It was never used.
But I remember on the first week in the gymnasium, which was like it had carpet walls and a carpet floor, and there was a client that came in, and believe it or not, he came to our venue for the next 23 years.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he'd been drinking red wine, and he went up and he was riding on the push bike, and he started to vomit, and he vomited while he was riding the bike. So the vomit
It
went
was
through
everywhere.
the spokes on the wheels and went all splashed up all through and I had to clean that up.
Yeah.
It was just disgusting.
We got rid of that room very quickly.
Yeah, that was, and then basically after a year, I started wondering why we've even got a gym, because the only thing, no one ever used it. No
Yeah.
one ever worked out on it. But so that was 11 cubicles, succatorium, porn cinema,
Yeah.
and the toilets and the rooms, and that was in. It was pretty cruisy, like considering it was only over 1 floor. We did make it really cruisy.
Well, that's
there was no
thanks to
dead
you.
ends.
You did
Yeah.
all of that. I didn't do any of that stuff.
Well,
you put the design together with Diane, so you did an incredible job on that.
Diane,
You did.
Diane
You
got all
did.
the, like the secretarium, Diane called the activities room. Like Diane had called all these things, different things, so that we could get them through council. And no glory holes went in until Christmas night.
Yeah, that's right. They had to drill them.
Diane
after.
said no glory holes. Like after the council inspection, they gave us the occupational certificate.
That's why they were still wet, because they drilled them and then we had to paint them and sand them and paint them before the clients come in.
And my straight friend had come into, he's a builder, and I
Yeah.
still actually use him till this very day. And he was in there on Christmas night cutting all the
Christmas
glory holes
Eve,
in.
yeah.
And his wife, they're a very religious family, and his wife rang me and she goes, "Could you please
Send my husband
home?" And she goes, "Why do you have to cut these penis holes on Christmas evening?" And I said, "Because I'm opening tomorrow and I need them." Like this, it's just terrible.
Yeah.
So it's just terrible trying to get ready on that morning.
For
Very
people that don't sort of have ever been to a sex club, it's incredibly dark. Like we have very dim lighting because people look better in the dark, I think. And also it was to create sort of a cruisy area.
So all the lights are red.
Yes, but very dim.
So you could always feel quite confident walking around, like you wouldn't see every mark on your face or whatever. And people actually look quite nice in that light.
Yeah, like obviously, like when we were shut for business, we had cleaning lights, and all the cleaning lights would come on, or if we had an emergency, cleaning lights would come on. But while we were running, it was always very
It's a
dark.
very important part of a bathhouse, believe it or not, is the lighting. It's incredibly important.
Yeah.
If you get the lighting wrong, no one will come to your venue.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how flashy it is or how incredible it is, wrong lighting, no one will come.
Yeah.
Got to be the right lighting. Can't be too bright. Can't be too dark.
But I think that's like that for any sex venue, whether it be a brothel or
always,
whatever.
And everyone's got to feel comfortable walking
Cruise
around
club,
in that
yeah.
lighting.
Yeah.
So that's kind of that's what that was. I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, I keep forgetting that.
Oh, thank you.
Very funny. I keep forgetting that a lot of people that are listening wouldn't know what a sauna is.
No, that's right. They don't understand
And
what
a sauna,
happens.
it's very important that we say that it's not a brothel. There's no paid for sex. It's against our license and against the.
And we had a number of people try to do that during the whole time.
Oh yes, my goodness.
Yeah, sex workers.
Sex workers were very welcome to bring their clients
Absolutely.
in, as long as they
Exchange
did their
money
exchanging outside, which didn't always happen. I'm sure it would have happened in the lockers.
But we stamped most of it out.
Yeah, but that's very important. The sauna is to meet other people. It's not anything more than that, and then it's got to be a social environment, or it may as well not exist. Yeah, it's got to be social. Very important.
I'm now on the first floor, ready to go up to the second floor. But maybe we'll revisit the second floor in our second episode.
Because it doesn't exist yet.
It doesn't. Okay, so at this point, it was the wet area in level 1.
That's all it was.
That was it.
And there was no level 2. Level 2 was empty. It was a totally empty carpeted floor. And level 4 was our house. So that was
That's right.
that was it. And depending on the
have to go
traffic,
far for work.
depending on the traffic in the elevator, we'd go to and from work in the elevator.
Yeah.
And the elevator is something else we're going to approach in one of our episodes. This will be
Do you know, Richard, we took that lease over on the 19th of September 2001. Luke and I got in the lift, we pushed the button, we went down to the basement and got jammed.
Yeah.
So the day we took the lease over, and there was the whole building was locked up. There was nobody. There was no
one to call.
Right, we were in real trouble. We were in there for hours.
Yeah.
And the name of my landlord's company was engraved. The doors open up to a gyprock wall and not to the floor. Right, there was nothing
sort of in between the floor and the basement.
And the name of my builder's company was etched by someone had engraved it on the wall. They said, "This company sucks." They'd written down it because obviously they'd also been in the lift for as long as we had been.
But it kept us going all that time. It broke down, but
we're going to cover the elevator in detail.
Yes, a lot of people got their fantasies done in the elevator.
Yes,
staff having sex in it.
Yeah.
We are going to wrap up this particular episode, but I just wanted to swing back and just get maybe from you, Luke, the 3 top reasons why you're doing this podcast.
Okay. 3 reasons. I think it's important. I think it's important to talk about sex. I said that earlier. I think it's, we all sort of do it. There's, 99% of the planet are having sex and we don't talk about it. And I think it's unhealthy. And I think it's a nice thing to talk about. I also think the second point would probably is that having owned a sex on premises venue, Australia's largest gay male sex on premises venue, it was an incredible insight to sex. And share some of the stories and, some of the funny things and some of the sad things with people. I think that's a nice thing to do. And the third reason, I think maybe to celebrate our relationship as well and what we created as 357, because I think it was something quite special. And we always referred to 357 as an entity. Like we didn't sort of... like we treated it like a child, really.
Always.
It was like our child.
It was our entire life.
Yeah, it was like a celebration. And
it wasn't
and
a
stuff
business.
Like it wasn't it was a business and it generated money and, all of that stuff. And, but at the end of the day, we sort of cared for it like as a living organism. So, yeah, I'd like to celebrate 357.
I think that's beautiful, and I think people are going to get a lot out of it. I'm going to wrap this up for episode 1. I think we've covered quite a lot.
Probably too much.
Well, we've been going for about an hour.
Oh, right.
Yep. And I think it's interesting, and I hope that our listeners think the same. I think we're going to be open to having questions put through, so we're going to work out how people can ask questions, and we can start fielding those through. I'm sure there are some awesome questions that people can ask.
And the most important thing is, Richard, I want 100% the truth. That's what I want to try. I don't want to mask anything or bullshit about anything. I want the truth. Yeah. So people ask a question, and we will answer that honestly. Yeah.
And in terms of our next episode, I think people can look forward to some very specific things about the sauna, the specific areas and what's happened to, and what's really thrilling me, and I'm really looking forward to, are the stories from the book. Now I'm going to leave that there. We're not going to explain any more of that, but if you tune into our next episode, we're going to pick a story from the book. You'll learn about the book, what is the book, and we're going to pick some stories, and trust me, you'll want to hear these. I've been entertained for years by you two about stories in this book, and I think it's time that they go out and that people hear them. So thank you, Ty. Thank you, Luke.
Thank you, Richard.
For an amazing episode 1. We'll see you back for episode 2. How about that?
Sounds fantastic.
Thank you,
Can't wait.
Richard.